The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network.
Hello, 15-Point Plan podcast listeners. Welcome. I'm really excited for today's episode. I have the privilege of interviewing my co-host and friend, Ryan Gregg. Why don't you say hi to everyone, Ryan?
Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be here as well, Jacqueline.
So last episode, Ryan interviewed me and you guys got to learn a little bit about my journey with the 15-Point Plan. And today we are going to interview Ryan and hear about his journey with the 15-Point Plan and how he ended up here. So Ryan, take us back. I think way back to maybe, I know your DJ days have something to do with this journey, right?
They do, yeah. And I was thinking about that over these last couple of days of where this all started, Jacqueline. And I think we have to start with the DJ days because that was my previous career before real estate. I've been in real estate about 9 years now. And prior to that, I was a professional traveling and touring DJ. And I did that for about a decade. And when I got into real estate, what I realized was I was starting to wake up around the time that I used to go to bed as a DJ. And it was a major adjustment, a major shift in my lifestyle and in my life. And as I got into real estate, I really wanted to be good at it. You know, I wanted to be like Ben and like all these other people that were good at it. And so I started to study what people that were successful in real estate did. And then I started to study what people that were successful, period, did. And what that looked like was, well, they got up early, maybe really early. And they did all these things before they even left the house, like work out and meditate and journal and hydrate themselves and take their supplements and have a meal plan. And I just wanted to be like everybody else that was successful, Jacqueline. And so I guess I started with working out. And that was probably, 8 or 9 years ago that I started actively working out, which is the movement category. And it started to feel pretty good. And then I just started to add other things in there. And then what I realized over time in talking with Ben was that Ben had created this system that he called the 15-Point Plan. And I looked at it and I went, gosh, I've been doing a fair amount of those things. What would happen if I added these other things in there that he talks about? And so that became the challenge. And following that system became a goal of mine because I just started to feel really good. I started to have a lot more energy. I started to gain a little bit of success in real estate. And once I got that taste of, wow, I think this is working, I wanted to just double down on it and see how far I could take things with working.
I love that. So you were DJing, you were obviously living a different schedule, like the nightlife I'm picturing, right? And then you realized, gosh, I probably need to get up before noon and I probably need to work out. How did you start and how did you make that workout and completely like shifting your schedule a consistent part of your life?
Well, I think it's important to note the reason as to why I started working out, Jacqueline, and all the things that happened in my first year in real estate. And let's just be honest, okay? The reason I started working out was because I was going through a breakup. In fact, a divorce, right? And in my first year of real estate, I got divorced. My mother-in-law passed away and my father passed away, all within my first year of real estate. So it was a super hard time in my life. And as I was getting divorced and going through that breakup, I thought, you know what? Let me prove it to that person that, whatever, right? Fill in the blank. I had that chip on my shoulder. And frankly, to be totally honest and transparent, I started working out because I wasn't comfortable with myself because I was going through a hard time in my life. And I thought, you know what? Let me get jacked. Let me get buff. And then I'll find a new partner. And I was doing it for the wrong reasons, but it helped me get through the hard times. And that then sparked this curiosity of seeing how far I could take my fitness levels. And then I found a personal trainer. And then I started working out with other people. And then I started doing these races and other events that were all just ways of pushing myself a little bit farther. And it just felt really good. It felt really good to push myself, to get uncomfortable, to challenge myself. And then I found myself within these communities of people that were doing races and people that were actively fit and healthy. And it just felt really good. And then it started to trickle into the rest of my life. And I noticed that the more healthy and fit that I got, the easier things happened for me. the more energy that I had, and I just kept doing it.
It reminds me of when people say success is the best revenge. So that was
Mm.
kind of your motivator at the start. Um, so talk to us a little bit about then, like, where did the 15-point plan come in? And so it sounds like you were working out, becoming a part of these communities with, the races and everything, and getting super into health and fitness. But the 15-point plan is much more than, right, the fitness side of things. So talk to us a bit about that and how that impacted your journey.
Well, what I noticed was, number one, I'm competitive, but number two, I'm fairly forgetful. And when I think I'm checking off a lot of the boxes, if I'm not looking at them, I'm probably forgetting a couple of the things. And so one of the things that was very helpful with the 15-point plan was, number one, having a community around it. We've done multiple contests or competitions or tracking competitions. And I just love that because I am a little competitive, but also I love the fact that it gives me a system, and I can just look at that at the end of the night, go, did I do that? And then I consistently am making sure that I'm doing the things that make me feel good in life. And I have an actual system to follow, because I think, like most people, if you're like me, then we'll just forget the things that we could do and should do. And so the 15-point plan gave me a visual guideline, a visual roadmap to follow. And it also became this competitive side within myself to realize, how many of these points can I check off before I even leave the house? And that was where it really, I think, magnified, was, how many of these can I check off before I even leave the house? And what would that do for my life? And what would it do for my life if I could do these regularly and consistently? And then what would it do for my life if I started to share these and other people around me were doing the same thing? And I found that the more I shared it, the more I talked about it, and other people started doing it, not only did I have a community, but other people were feeling good around me too. And the more people that are feeling good around you, the more we're going to feel good. And so
Yeah.
I started to talk about it and started to share it. And then, you created an online page. And I thought, wow, this is cool, because now I can talk about it and share this with other people that aren't just within my own community. And the community kept growing. And then it holds me accountable. If I'm going to be the 15-point plan guy, like you and I are now, the
Mhm.
hosts, we got to really live this life. We actually have to practice this life and embrace this lifestyle. So it's
Absolutely.
become a way of life, I would say.
Awesome. So tell us which points for you were the hardest to implement consistently.
The points that were and still are the hardest for me to implement would be probably to serve, and probably my hobbies. And I think I hear those two pretty often from people. And I think a lot of it stems from the fact that people, those two are really for, well, I guess they all are, but those two are really for yourself, to serve people and to get out there and do your hobby. So one thing, some of my hobbies would be gardening or cooking or working on a puzzle. But you see, like we spend so much time giving and spend so much time that maybe we start to think, oh, I shouldn't do that thing that I really love to do because it's selfish, and I should be with my family. I should be with my partners. And we got to stop shoulding on ourselves and just take that time to ourselves to do the things that we love, to express a little bit of creativity. Music might still be a creative form of a hobby. So the hobbies and the service, I think, are the two hardest for me to continue to get.
I did not know that you're a puzzle guy. I love puzzles.
I've become even more so. And I think it's super funny because I have this puzzle right now, Jacqueline, that I found. And I'm a bird guy also. So a little bit on that background. I really love birds, and I really love owls. And I found this puzzle that is an owl clock. So it's like a 3D puzzle that you put together, and it's a functioning clock. And this thing has been on my table for 3 weeks now. And mom, I love you, but my mom has been making fun of me because on the box it says like 14 and up. And she's like, yeah, it's for 14-year-olds. And he's been working on it for 3 weeks. But it takes time. Like it's a very intricate, detailed thing. And what I found is I like it because I can sit there with just me. It's kind of
Mhm.
like real estate in some ways, that it's like I really control my own destiny and nobody else can, in some ways, right? Like what I put in is what I'll get out. So puzzles are fun like that because it also just makes my brain slow down. To work on something
Mhm.
like that for an hour or a couple hours really forces me to slow down. I think that's why I enjoy them.
Yeah. Yeah, I like them because they get us off our phones too, right? We're just so attached to technology nowadays that with my hobbies, I like to find things that are unrelated to technology or almost like impossible to do and be on your phone. So,
I think
because
that's a good point. I noticed that as well. When I first started doing it, I would listen to something and then I thought, no, I don't want to listen to anything. And I hit this point where I was confused on a part of it. I couldn't get any farther. And I told my mom at dinner, and she was like, again, kind of making fun of me, like, this is for 14-year-olds, Ryan, you can't get any farther. And just the process of like sitting and looking at this thing and realizing I had put one of the gears on wrong. And so it wasn't aligning with the other gear. And it was so cool to just think, wow, I just solved a problem that was just like this little wooden puzzle, and that felt good in my brain to have a problem solving accomplishment with just a puzzle that had nothing to do with technology.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Well,
those hobbies I think are very important for us to have a hobby and to do something that is outside and different from what we do with our day-to-day business. I think is vastly important for our mental health.
mhm. Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that I hear, and I know you've heard this too, we've talked about it a little bit, is when people hear about the 15-point plan, especially if they're in business, they have a lot of responsibility in their life. It's like they don't want another thing that they have to do and track um, and all of that. So what advice would you have for people who don't want yet another thing they feel is on their plate to do, but they want to have more energy and feel better and start the journey with the 15-point plan?
I think that's a really good question, and I think that you're probably right that the average person has a lot going on. And I would challenge that in the fact that when we do these things, we're going to have more energy, and when we have more energy, we're probably going to be more efficient with our time. So by sacrifice might not be the right word, but by spending some time with your exercise, with your movement, with your hydration, with your food and meal planning, I believe that you'll get time back because you're going to be more efficient in what you're doing in your life. And so I think that I would challenge that if we can spend the time doing it, and of course it's going to take some time front loading, right? But as we get into those rhythms, into those habits, you're going to have more time. Plus, if we can get up a little bit earlier and we can hack into our sleep a little bit, we can hack into our own rhythms a little bit, maybe we can actually just get up an hour earlier. Maybe we can perform with an hour less sleep. Now, I'm not recommending not getting enough sleep, but I'll bet that we could sleep a half hour less and not even know the difference. And in that half hour, we could get a workout in. You could get a great workout in a half hour. If it's not a workout, you could do your meditation, your journaling. You could do a whole other group of those activities on there. So I guess my challenge would be also to say, well, if you don't have the time, how are we spending our time? We know that the average human spends about 2 hours on social media every day. Cut that in half, you just earn an hour back. So I would say if somebody doesn't have the time, I would challenge where are we spending that time, which of course is another point on the 15-point plan. How are we managing our time? And if we say we don't have time, we just are really saying we don't have the priorities. And I've just learned that health and wellness are an absolute priority for me. So I have to make the time.
Yeah, that's really good. What you said, it reminds me of you invest now or you spend later. So if you don't invest the time to take care of yourself, to do these things, then you usually spend it either feeling stressed out or feeling, depleted of energy, which then causes your ability to handle stressful situations and problems, maybe not uh, as your best self. So invest your time now and you'll save it later or you'll spend it later, right? If you don't invest.
And I think that can be applied to every single one of those points. And I'll just use meditation as one, for example. People will say, I don't have 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes to meditate. Okay, well, what about this? By me spending that 20 minutes of meditation time in the morning, I guarantee you that when a problem comes up, I'm going to think about it and I'm going to deal with it a lot quicker. I'm going to think about it a lot less. So what that means is, let's say I spent 20 minutes meditating in the morning and then something very stressful happens later in the day. I know that I can give myself permission to stress on that for like a minute or maybe two. And during that time, because of my meditation practice, I'm going to be able to shelf that a lot quicker. I'm going to be able to put that aside or solve it a lot quicker than maybe somebody who doesn't meditate. And during that time, they're going to stress out for 20, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. So when you look at the net on that, sure, I spent 20 minutes in the morning, but it only took me a minute or two to get out of that funk. Whereas some
Mhm.
people that don't spend that 20 minutes in the morning, they're in the funk for the rest of the day now because
Yeah.
they can't break that cycle, that pattern. So I think that could go for any one of those points that we're investing into ourselves
Yeah.
first thing so that we don't have to do it later. And it's going to save us time. Ultimately, it will save us time and not cost us time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This is just like totally the tip of the iceberg. I know that you have an incredible story that's really, really inspiring, and it has inspired a lot of people. So I hope that throughout, this next year, as we dive into the 15-point plan further, that, more, parts of that story will continue to come out, for you and for me, for both of us, and that we get to know our listeners a little bit better, and they get to know us. And as we take this journey together, that we all grow and all end up, with more energy, more happiness. And so thank you, Ryan, for being honest and sharing your story with us and authentic. And I'm looking forward to our next episode.
Absolutely, Jacqueline. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me. I'm looking forward to our next episode as well. And thank you, of course, to all the 15-point plan listeners. Don't forget, you can find us everywhere online, 15-point plan, winmakegive.com. Follow Jacqueline Smith and myself on all social media platforms, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Awesome. See you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Hi, Chad Himes here, and I want to let you know about my podcast, Achieve Your Apex, on the Win, Make, Give podcast network. If you're ready to unlock your full potential, then Achieve Your Apex is right for you. Join me as we go on a journey to becoming your best self. Using my best-selling book as our guide, I'll share practical tips, inspiring stories, and fantastic interviews so you can achieve your apex. Whether it's personal development, career success, or mastering your mindset, we've got you covered. Subscribe now to Achieve Your Apex wherever you get your podcasts and start your transformation today.